Dear God Almighty, have y'all seen social media? I have. And it is full of people about as nervous as long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs over whether they can actually tell people that they've ever been lost in the woods or not. I think that's hilarious because I am from a very rural area. And you know something? Ain't no shame in being lost. If you're from the country, we've all been lost at some point. Hang on, my dog's fixing to eat. Oscar, go lay down. Ain't no shame in it. If you're from the country, you've all been lost, turned around at least once, and had to think about retracing your steps. It sometimes happens. It's happened to me. I've always found my way out, but you know, possibly I could have been lost. But I want you to know I'm repping for Ryan, even though he can't find his way out of the woods today. No shame. Still love the boy. But here I have a pro tip for you young bucks that like to go in the woods ill prepared. Well, number one, learn how to read a topo map and a compass. That'll save you a lot of grief in the future. Learn how to convert aerial maps to maps that you can create and read for hunting. But anyway, here's the redneck 5-star pro tip for never getting lost in the woods. You always take your best coon dog with you. And you always take the one that when you're walking back to the truck at 2 a.m., after all the dogs are still kind of winding and scenting things and running and thinking about maybe catching something on the way back, you've got that one old dog that is just really intent on getting back to the truck, loading up and going home, getting his meal, his belly full, and going to bed. Take that dog with you everywhere you go and train him well. Because when I was in the 4th grade, I went out with a group of hunters to run two dogs. They wanted to pit against each other to see which one done best. Now, I was always out and about in the woods because I was always with my brother and my dad. So I went out with lots and lots of people. I hunted a lot in my life. I mean, there's not many nights I wasn't somewhere at 2 a.m. thinking, well, I probably should have stayed home. We got turned around that night. And I was only in 4th grade, so I really wasn't worried about it. These older men were supposed to have my back and get me home safe. So I really wasn't worried about it. I nestled down into the bank and pulled the leaves up around me to stay warm, and I thought, I'm not too worried. We'll figure a way out of here. We ain't been walking too long. It can't be too far. About the time they give up and said, well, we're just going to have to sit tight until we can get some daybreak and get our bearings, I looked at my dog and I said, load up. And he took off down the road, went out through the woods. We found the road very quickly after that. And they said, where's he going? I said, to the truck. We need to follow him. And they said, when did you think about that? And I said, well, I thought about it a couple minutes ago. But I said, y'all were trying so hard, I didn't want interruptions. And they said, is he really going to the truck? I said, oh yeah. I said, he's the first one back at the food bowl. I said, he's wanting his dinner, wanting to go home, go to bed. And sure enough, when we'd lose sight of him, we'd call him back, and he'd come back like, come on, people, it's dinner time. And we got back to the truck just fine. Always take your best coonhound with you. Always train him to load up. And always pick the one that enjoys his dinner after the hunt the most. You'll never be lost. Second best way is to always take your trusted horse, ride your horse. If you ever get lost with a horse in the woods, just start talking about it's time to go home, go to the barn. I used to trail ride for years and years and years, and I had a little Morgan, Tennessee Walker cross. His name was Red Jack. And it'd get time to leave the barn to go out every morning. I cut trails for East Fork Stables in Tennessee. And he didn't want to leave the barn in the morning. We'd load up and we'd hit the trails to go cut trails, mark trails, and he'd be slow leaving that barn. But now, by golly, on the way back to the barn, he'd pick up his pace because he wanted back in his stall and he wanted his grain. And so I always knew that if I'd ever found a gap trail or an overlooked trail or something that I thought had cut my path, and I thought, well, I need to try to go through here to see if this takes me back the way I need to go, see if this can be cut, see if this is the right route. I always knew if I was pointing in the right direction, because when we would point back to where we, would be retracing our steps or going back toward the barn, that horse would walk 3 times as fast. So he was a pretty good little beacon for me. I'd ride him to the river and swim him sometimes. I had a lot of fun probably as a kid. I shouldn't have had. It's probably a wonder I've made it to 42. But these are little tips, use the smarts of the things around you. Look at the way the birds are flying. Don't look for buzzers. Don't look for carry-on birds. You know, look for songbirds. Songbirds normally like to stay around people and around subdivisions and around houses, and they do normally spend most of their time, you know, in populated areas. They might go to the woods later to roost, but they like to spend their time in populated areas because people have bird feeders and all this stuff out. And, you know, they don't cover a huge tract of land during certain months of the year. They'll stay pretty close to where they feed and where their nest is. So you can kind of tell some things, you know, but the best ever tip I could ever give anybody going in the woods is always take your best coonhound. Always have them trained to load up at the end of the night. And always make sure the one you train to load up, that is going to be your compass when your internal compass gives out, make sure it's the one that wants that meal at the end of the night more than any other dog you've ever met. And you will always find your way back to your vehicle. Got a lot of redneck tips. I just don't think about them until people do silly things. But hey, no shame in it. Ryan's made fun of it. He's laughed at it. Kane Brown's had a good hoot at it. I thought it was hilarious. I'm glad they're both safe because, you know, in the dark, in the craggy land that Tennessee has, it can be quite dangerous to be lost in Tennessee. We do have craggy land. You know, a little 6-foot bluff can kill you if you don't see it coming and you step off just right. So you got to be careful out there. But I've never seen a room full of sore people like I have on social media today. Lord, like a big old dairy cow with mastitis. They can't stand it. They're getting rubbed the wrong way, and when people say the smallest thing, they're getting perturbed, and I think it's freaking hilarious because, you know something? If you country, you know, you get turned around. Ain't no shame in it. We all have a good laugh about it and we all go on. People stop getting butt hurt so bad. Have a laugh. The boy's okay. It's all good. They live to laugh about it and crack a beer and in the night. Social media is getting crazy.